Okay, and we're live, but not new. New, but not live. I'm here. This is me, Tim, at the new YMB podcast. I'm glad to have you guys again this week, and we're hoping you're just as excited as we are. Coming into holiday weekends, I don't want to offend nobody. I'll throw that out there. Although, it's close to being Trump's America, so maybe we're allowed to offend people again.
Well, there's not really any alternatives to Thanksgiving. That's pretty secular. It's compared to Christmas.
So I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. I don't like that word. But they're defending everybody's favorite holiday to get fucked up and just fat is our co-host, and I'd say a pretty big fan of both of those things, Daniel Brown.
Frick yeah, bud. Daniel Brown, how's it going?
Good. How are you been?
Good. I don't understand what all that stuff you said about being live or new. What was all that about?
I was mostly just seeing how it sounded on the microphone because I wasn't exactly sure how it was going to look because I'm having to be quiet. My roommate started a shift where he works at 4 a.m. so he goes to sleep
Dude,
at like 8.
Screw him.
No, he's an idiot.
He picked out that shift.
No, yeah, I came home at 2 o'clock, 2:30 last weekend. Just woke him up. He was pissed off for about 15 minutes. I ignored him and he shut the fuck up. But
yeah, what's on the docket for the day?
You don't want to just keep on hearing about my life?
Not really,
so
no.
Today,
I'm sorry.
Well, besides Daniel treating me like a piece of shit, also today we're going to be talking about Coinbase and some of their interactions with the IRS or their attempts to not have interactions with the IRS. And
dude, here's a goal for before the end of the show. We have to come up with a comical alternative acronym for IRS. It's got to stand for something else kind of funny, like irritable
rectal syndrome.
Exactly.
Everybody at the IRS is an inflamed arsehole. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Coinbase and their relation to the irritable rectal syndrome people. And then also we're going to be talking about Via. And
yeah, Via or Via. Either way. ViaBTC.
VIA.
I don't know what the right one is. ViaBTC.
Yeah, Via as in Visa. No, I was about to say Vis-a-Vis. That's not in it at all. But yeah, ViaBTC and BTC, or Bitcoin Unlimited, which is kind of ViaBTC is the company, I believe. BTC Unlimited is the technology or whatever, right, as an alternative to Segregated Witness and a different kind of branching off, or at least that's what ViaBTC is proposing.
ViaBTC is a mining pool, and they're trying to get enough miners to prevent the SegWit merge. And they support, instead of SegWit, they support Bitcoin Unlimited. So we'll get into all that. But before we do, though, I guess there's two main, I don't know, actually, there's maybe three main things that we have to mention. Number one, you might have already noticed that, I think this is maybe what Tim meant by live kind of at the beginning of the show. We are going virtually uncut for today's show. We've done this before. I just got a busy schedule for the next few days, and I have no time to edit, so all of our ums and ahs and, 2-second pauses are going to be left in there.
Well, that's some meta humor for you podcast people there. Daniel's on fire.
Everything is pretty much going to be left in unless Tim makes the most egregious of mistakes, which he does sometimes, so you never know. But so that's number one. Number two is, holy crap, episode number 150. I mean, it's always exciting when an episode ends in a 0, but when it ends in a 50 or a 00, I mean, that's only happened twice before, right, Tim? We've had 50 and 100. And now we're at 150. What do you think?
Does 50 really end in 50 though? Or is
yes? Yeah. What kind of a question?
Does 50 end in 50? I don't think 50 ends in 50, Daniel.
What are you talking about? 50 is a special episode. Nobody's going to argue with that.
It's
so is 100.
Special.
And so is 150. And because it's a special episode, we kicked John out. So he's not with us today. I don't know what's up with him these days, but who cares? Anyway, I promised you 3 special things. And the third one is, holy crap, happy Thanksgiving. We already briefly mentioned it, but this episode is going out on Thanksgiving. So, I don't know, tell us what you're thankful for. Maybe you'll be thankful that there's a pause button on your phone so you don't have to listen to this whole show. I mean, whatever you're thankful for. That's true. They're pretty courageous. The next thing's going to be headphones with padlocks so you can't escape. Yeah, so anyway, 150 episodes. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks. We're thankful for you. I say it pretty often, and I mean it every time our listeners make this show possible. So thanks for being here. And thanks for listening to whatever we have to talk about today, which I guess we're ready to get into. Is that true, Tim?
Oh,
and if
man.
so, take it away.
Yeah, I think so. It is. Okay,
Frick
cool.
Yeah, bud.
And this is a special little, of special importance to all of our tax evaders out there. I like to think more of you are, but maybe a lot of people are out there, like, figuring out exactly how much money they made over Bitcoin over the years. So, like, I'm gonna pay this, which I think even if you do normally pay your taxes pretty well, Bitcoin is a little bit too much of a hassle to figure that shit out anyway.
Yeah. I've said frick yeah like 3 times this episode now, which I don't think that's a good sign.
You're too excited. It's the adrenaline.
We haven't even gotten into this story, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. That's like the toughest part. Like, I don't even know what I would do to figure out how much I owe. I buy some, I'll sell some, I buy stuff with Bitcoin, I buy Bitcoin with stuff, I buy a t-shirt. How the frick am I supposed to know what I owe? And that's where the whole slave labor comes in. I didn't hear this argument till, within the last year or two, and it shocked me when I realized it. But tax forms are quite literally slave labor, which we can get into more in a little bit, but we really should let this story get out. So sorry, Tim, keep going.
How dare you? So yeah, for anybody out there wondering about when you're going to have to figure out how to actually pay the taxes for any money you made off of Bitcoin, maybe you lost it all, maybe you got in at just some stupid time and you've like, maybe I can write off all this stuff. Maybe this is your opening here. But the IRS has summoned Coinbase, asking them for kind of just blanket data on their customers, including the way the devices they use, I'm guessing just pretty much all your personal information.
Where
names,
the money
addresses,
is,
how much,
social
where you
security
sent the money.
Number. We both just talked over each other there, but it doesn't really matter because all we were saying was lists of personal information.
All kinds of shit that it leads itself to be like they're looking for people to get money off of them. And I mean, the IRS even says. Hold
on. The IRS looks for people to get money off them? No. Are you serious? That's what they do?
No.
Holy crap.
They have the guns on some of their agents just to, it's to defend against evil tax fraud that just appears out of nowhere.
It is. Dude, did you see? Okay, so in this article from news.bitcoin.com, they quote an IRS agent who talks about how the characteristics of virtual currencies could enable them to replace traditional abusive tax arrangements as the preferred method for tax evaders. Yeah, I mean, they're evil people they're abusive. Holy crap. We can't have these people around, these evaders, right?
What does that even mean? Abusive tax arrangements? Like, does that just mean they're just abusing the system?
Offshore accounts. Yeah, offshore accounts.
I've never heard
loopholes.
It used like that. Like, I've heard of abusing the system, but you never hear of someone being abusive towards the system.
Do you know how damaging it is when they don't pay their fair share?
No, you're right. It sounds like you're a wife beater. You're like beating up children. Just because you're not paying all your taxes.
Do you know how offensive that is to the average person who can't get his disability or his social security or whatever payment? Because
that's my grandmother, you piece of shit. You take that back. She deserves that money for being swindled out of it when she was young.
True. Actually, that's a bit of a contention among liberty lovers is social security. There are liberty lovers who point out the fact, I'm mostly thinking of Mark Edge from Free Talk Live, he points out the fact that, hey, there are some people in the world who paid into the system for ages, and they kind of deserve whatever they can get out of Social Security. And he mentions that whenever people talk about secession, he's like, well, if you secede, you're going to lose your Social Security. And I don't want to get into all the specifics, but it's worth mentioning. You know, I mean, some people they've paid into the system for years and years and years, expecting something out of it. And it might be fair to say that they deserve at least something, even if it's not 100% of what they put in. Yeah, I don't know. Do you agree?
I think that because I went and wasted a percentage of my earnings every single day of my life for the past 50 years at the casino, that casino should be allowed to steal money out of the pockets of other people and then give it to me, and I deserve that for making stupid decisions with my life. People who make that argument are just too attached to their grandparents and believe their parents know everything and are God. That's the reason. That's the problem with Mark Edge.
I kind of sort of get what you're saying, but the big difference is that you weren't forced to give your money to the casino. You were forced or coerced into giving your money to the state. But I guess that's true of whether you give money to the state or not. We all deserve something back from them. They conned all of us, and we all deserve something from them. So, and we're probably never going to get it. So maybe
that's a decent point. I just don't care about old people. Like, I'm sorry, it's not my problem. Like, and it helps that I have no chance of getting any of it. That I'm just like, oh, fuck, I don't like it all. But it's just one more reason to dislike another group of people. So I'll take it. Tim
loves hating people, so yeah, you got that there. You're right. So yeah, let's get into this more about Coinbase. I mean, what do you think here? It's a huge blanket request. I don't really know if there's any precedence. Is that the right term? I don't know if there's any precedence for this, but I think it's generally accepted that it's not going to happen the way that it's currently laid out. I mean, that's basically what Coinbase said. We will not accept it in its current form, something like that. But maybe they just made it so wide and sweeping in the first place so that in a month or two they can come back and say, okay, well, you don't have to tell us what devices they were using, and we only need these million, not all 5 million. We only want these million, and you don't have to give us quite everything. You know, just give us the last 4 digits of their social security number. We'll figure the rest out from there. I mean, I honestly think that's pretty much what the outcome will be. I don't actually doubt it very much at all that that's what's going to happen. That they're going to come back and say, okay, well, we'll tweak it. Yeah, that was a little strong. We asked for a lot. It probably wasn't constitutional because we don't have probable cause. But here's the new order for only 1 million customer records or something like that. I actually have very, very little doubt that that's what's going to happen. Feel free to quote me on that, and we'll see how it goes in about a year, what the outcome was. But anyway, you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Coinbase is going to hold out for too long. It's just they can't be like, yeah, here's all of them. They'll just give them,
that's another quote
maybe
here.
Even just most of
we
them.
want to work with law enforcement. That's generally our policy. That's from a Coinbase attorney, Juan Suarez. And this has been a long time complaint about Coinbase and Circle. Everyone knows that they collect personal information in the Bitcoin space. And, everyone knows it's not great. It's not beautiful. And we've said on the show, we've had this discussion 100 times, we're not quite as concerned with privacy as some people are. But, we'll admit, I use Coinbase, and I admit it sucks that they collect personal information, and it's a serious risk, and who knows, maybe this could be the culmination of that risk, or the consummation. I don't know what the right term is. But, yeah, maybe they will collect my records and send me a letter in 6 months that says, you owe this much, and I'll say, screw you. And they'll find this recording and play it in court, and then I'm going to be the real one screwed, maybe.
You just need to keep on saying, I've never owned Bitcoin. This has all just been for entertainment purposes.
No, I don't have to just keep saying that. It's true. It is all for entertainment. I don't know what you mean about just saying that, but that's, our listeners aren't supposed to know that. Our listeners are supposed to think that we have Bitcoin so that this show is entertaining.
This is what you get in the uncut episode.
Hopefully, whoever's playing this audio in court, can't find the pause button and it gets that far. We'll see. That might save my ass, but yeah. Anyway, so there it is. Maybe I'm screwed. What do you think, Tim? Are you screwed? Do you use Coinbase? I actually honestly don't know. I think I've asked you before and I don't remember the answer.
Yeah, I have.
If you plead the fifth, you plead the fifth. I mean, whatever.
I have. Mostly just to look at their articles that they run on the side things on the side. I like to do that.
Articles?
Do they be able to check the price? I think, maybe it's just facts. I don't really know how to use the internet very well. So I don't really know too much about Coinbase in general. I just know that I was there one time. I think maybe when someone else was on the computer showing me and he was like, dude, look, the Bitcoin price is this. And I was like, wow, man,
that's pretty cool.
Wow.
And then you accidentally typed in your social security number and your address and accidentally made an account. But that's all.
I had somebody else do it for me. It was kind of like as a joke. It was a school project. It was one of those things.
Okay, all right.
And then I did a report on it at school.
Yeah, same here. So we're good. Oh boy. All right. Anyway, yeah, yeah. Is there anything else to even get into? I mean, that's what's happening. We covered that, and that's what we think is going to happen. We covered that. We know it sucks. I mean, what? Go ahead.
The IRS might not, probably their first offer is not going to be like what they even thought they were going to get. They probably weren't give us 6 million people.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying.
You thought the IRS? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were just saying that Coinbase was going to battle them down.
No. I think the IRS is intentionally
highballing,
putting out, they're putting out this sweeping demand so that in 6 months, when they come back with a slightly smaller request, everyone will say, "Oh, all right, I guess that's okay." I mean,
okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that Coinbase, because I could definitely see Coinbase too. If the IRS sticks to that number, Coinbase being like, no, we don't want to do 5 million. We can do 2. We can do 2 of
exactly.
These guys.
That's the same
guys,
thing.
We've been having them on a list. These are the ones we don't let take too much money out at a time.
Yeah, it's the same thing. That Coinbase is going to do that. They're going to say, okay, well, you lessened your demands, so here you go. Here's everything. And to be honest, I don't really. I do blame the people who get screwed. The Coinbase users, it's your own damn fault. That's the whole, even though we said privacy is not as huge a deal as some people think, the reason that's true is because anyone that uses Coinbase knows that they're giving up their personal information. Same thing with Google or Facebook or Amazon. Anyone that uses those services knows that they're giving up their personal information, and they submit to any risk that entails. And so we've said it before, Coinbase collects stuff and they are in bed with the government. They follow the law. They're regulated. What do you expect? Of course they're going to turn over information eventually.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the weight of the IRS is a little bit too heavy for any one company to pay. It's hard for corporations to do it, let alone, I guess technically Coinbase. Is Coinbase a corporation? Yeah.
Yeah, company, whatever.
But like a traditional company, it's hard for them to stand up to the IRS versus Coinbase, which already has so much stuff stacked against them. So
Right. But I don't blame, if anyone gets screwed over or arrested or whatever, I don't blame Coinbase at all. I blame that user. I mean,
no, I still blame Coinbase because it's still
hold on. First of all, we have to put out the caveat. Obviously, everyone knows the real person to blame is the government. There's no question about that. They're the idiots who steal your money in the first place. But whose fault is it that person X got caught? I think it's more person X's fault than it is Coinbase's fault. I mean, neither of you did anything wrong. it's the government who did the wrong stuff. But whose fault is it? I think it's person X. I'm sorry, I do.
No, Coinbase is still doing something wrong. Just because someone else is forcing you to do something doesn't take responsibility away from you.
No, but I think Coinbase is wrong in turning over any information, but like I said, person X should have known that this would happen, and so it's your own damn fault. And I am a person X. I mean, I've used Coinbase, and if I get screwed over, it's my own damn fault.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing I'd say with people who get like their emails hacked or get texts that just get screenshot and sent out, where it's just anything you do online, or at least this is how I view what you said. Like anything you do online it can be revealed to someone who you might not want, and once you put it out there, your information isn't really, whether you think it's yours or not, it doesn't really matter because it's very easy to get. Yeah.
This is something that it when you think about it, it's so obvious, but not really. Hardly anyone ever thinks about it. Basically, the internet is a giant game of telephone. I mean, that's what a network is. That's what a net is. It's a bunch of connected things, people, nodes. It's a game of telephone where you know, if you go to a website, you don't directly ask the owner of Bitcoin.com. I don't go to Roger Ver and say, hey, send me this article. No, I go to the closest ISP, and they go to their closest internet backbone, and they go to whoever the data center that houses Bitcoin.com. It's a game of telephone. Every single thing you say goes through a bunch of other people. That's what makes it work, is because it's a net, it's a web, it's a network. And yes, there is encryption, and yes, it's revolutionary, and yes, it allows you to request websites and transfer information without the people in the middle knowing what's going on. But you have to use that. You have to do that, and you have to, if you're gonna, that doesn't encrypt. Just because encryption exists does not mean Coinbase doesn't have your social security number. They do, and they could give it to whoever they want. Encryption does not mean that, you know, you can give up your personal information and then not be responsible for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a giant game of telephone. I telephone my social security number to Coinbase, and if they want to telephone it to the government, they could do it. So it's not that complicated. It's just a network of, you know, person to person to person to person communication. That's all it is. So.
Hey guys, I'm Tim Baker.
I'm Daniel Brown.
And I'm Sean Stewart. And we are the YMB podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Us three chumps love to talk too much, and for some reason other people seem to enjoy it.
That's why we started You, Me, and BTC, which is your Bitcoin and Liberty podcast.
Find our show at youmeandbtc.com every Thursday.
We also post Bitcoin-related reviews, opinion articles, and much more. Subscribe, like, and follow at youmeandbtc.com.
Okay, so instead of Daniel and I arguing about whether it's via or via the entire time, we've decided to just pretty much steal someone else's work, as we used to do more blatantly in our earlier shows. But this is
whoa! No, this is way more blatant than it's been.
I said
before.
I mean, this is definitely a little bit more of a.
No, we've never done this before. At least. Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, we've never read more than a few sentences from an article, maybe a paragraph or two. But in this case today, and there is a reason for this. We're not trying, you know, we have tremendous, I'll pull a line from Trump and say, I have tremendous respect for Aaron Van Weerdum, or Aaron Van Werdum.
It's probably Veerdum or something like that. It's probably
Dutch.
Aaron
Van Weerdum. Yeah. So anyway, it's a great article. And it's a great article.
It's
amazing
huge.
Words in that article. Amazing sentences.
Words.
Okay? Yeah.
Their doom just has a winning temperament.
No, it is a great article. It's an interview between the author, Van Weerdum, and the operator of ViaBTC, Haipo Yang, or the CEO, Haipo Yang. And The main reason that I do want to read most of this word for word, and that's because it's well formatted as a question and answer, interview. And when I was originally reading this a few days ago, there were a couple, one-line question and answers, and it was hard to remember who was saying what, who was bold and who was the light print. And so I figured, wouldn't it be cool if there were literally two different voices reading it back and forth, and you can hear a little bit of the debate. So we're going to try to replicate that for you. Like I said, word for word, we're going to read through this. And, if you want to sue us, Aaron, I tried to. I don't really know what that would end. I don't really know how that would end up because we don't have any money, but whatever. But this is from Bitcoin Magazine, and it is a good article, a good interview. So kudos, seriously. I mean, we're joking a little bit, but seriously, it's a good article, Aaron, and it's a good article, Bitcoin Magazine. So thanks for putting it out there. And all you listeners, I encourage you to check it out more, research it more, and learn about the two different sides of this debate. And we mentioned this at the beginning, and they're going to cover it a lot, obviously, in the interview. So I don't think I need to give too much background, but just so you know, that is the issue. It's block size again, and it's SegWit again. ViaBTC is trying to get enough mining power to prevent the transition to SegWit, and they are advocating for Bitcoin Unlimited. And Tim, I am going to let you take the bold text, so go ahead and start it right at the top.
Oh. Okay.
I want to be Haipo.
Yeah, I noticed, and you get to talk. Yeah, I guess I'm their doom then, right? Yeah. Or just any from, I am Bitcoin Magazine. And
yeah, exactly.
My first question as goes, Haipo, you've made it clear you want a hard fork to increase the block size limit. Why do you consider this necessary?
Well, Bitcoin Magazine, that was my own, but from here on out, it's word for word. The past 7-year history of Bitcoin has proven that on-chain transactions are successful and needed by users. I think a hard fork to increase the block size limit is the only way for Bitcoin to develop moving forward, and the only way to preserve the Bitcoin mining business model. I support a hard fork to stop Bitcoin from marching toward extinction.
Since blocks first started filling up about a year ago, the Bitcoin price has doubled. How does this indicate a march towards extinction?
What influences short-term fluctuations in the Bitcoin price comes from speculators rather than from fundamentals like transaction throughput. Bitcoin was valued at over $1,000 at one point. A rebound to $700 doesn't seem at all unusual.
Academic analysis suggests that Bitcoin needs a block size limit to guarantee miner income in the long term. Wouldn't you rather find out how much users will pay for transactions before worrying about Bitcoin failing?
I think by the time we find out, it'll be too late. Bitcoin offers no benefits over most altcoins other than a first-mover advantage and security. And Bitcoin can lose both of these advantages. If there's not enough capacity, people will use Litecoin instead, or Ethereum, or Zcash, or another altcoin, and Bitcoin will be done for.
Do you see increased transaction throughput in the short term as the only road to success? For example, consider the digital gold value proposition, which doesn't require as many cheap on-chain transactions.
Is Bitcoin a currency or a commodity? In my view, this is a bit like the relationship between water and a boat. If Bitcoin does not have widespread acceptance as a currency, then its value as a commodity is an illusion. Limiting Bitcoin's capacity is therefore a ridiculous strategy. It's as if Facebook would have continued to only let users with a .edu email address register. If they had done that, there wouldn't be a Facebook today.
In your analogy, Facebook could just rent another server in order to meet capacity. Increasing the block size presents a burden to each Bitcoin node. If you want to keep Bitcoin decentralized, it's not as easy to scale.
The large majority of Bitcoin users have no need to run their own nodes. By design, Bitcoin allows users to make choices when it comes to speed, convenience, and trust. They can use a light wallet. The trade-off for that convenience is that they give up a very small amount of trust.
They give up this trust to miners. Don't you think that having to trust third parties, in this case miners, is against the principal goal of Bitcoin?
Based on the current quality of hardware, I don't think increasing the block size up to 4 megabytes will be a problem for the foreseeable future. Users would still be able to run full nodes if they want to.
But surely you don't think that 4 megabytes will be enough to meet any and all eventual demand?
We don't know how many potential Bitcoin use cases there are, and what scenarios they'll be applied to. Perhaps we'll find that 4 or maybe 8 megabytes actually is enough. What we do know is that 1 megabyte blocks can't meet present users' demand, and Bitcoin must scale.
Many use cases can also be realized through added layers. Some of these layers already exist, like ChangeTip or Coinbase's off-chain transactions, and trustless layers like the Lightning Network are in production as well.
I don't deny that the Lightning Network and other second-layer technologies have benefits, and plenty of off-chain transactions are indeed already happening, for example, in exchanges. But many Bitcoin transactions also need to be made on-chain where they can be traced. This is what second-tier technologies cannot achieve. Additionally, opening a Lightning payment channel requires users to lock up funds, which is an extra barrier to entry. If that's the only affordable option, some users will choose to leave Bitcoin and go elsewhere. On-chain transactions are a proven concept. Technologies like the Lightning Network are not.
The Lightning Network can prove itself once Segregated Witness is activated, and as a bonus, Segregated Witness almost doubles the effective block size. Yet you intend to block its activation. Why?
Segregated Witness can be implemented more simply and cleaner via a hard fork, but Bitcoin Core has opted for a more complex soft fork. This indicates that they don't want a hard fork at all and don't want to increase the block size limit either. If the soft fork is adopted, I think a hard fork will be off the table. My goal is not really to block Segregated Witness in and of itself, but to work towards a Bitcoin version I think is better.
In your opinion, what must this hard fork look like exactly?
I've proposed to transition to Bitcoin Unlimited because Bitcoin Unlimited removes the hard-coded restriction on the protocol layer completely. Once the 1 megabyte hard limit restriction is removed, the block size can adjust dynamically in line with the needs of its users and technological progress.
In this scenario, the block size limit would effectively be controlled by a handful of mining pools representing a majority of hash power, which does not sound very decentralized.
You cannot say that Bitcoin mining is centralized just because most miners are located in China. There are more than 20 mining pools where the biggest pool represents no more than 20% of hash power on the network. There are thousands of miners, and anyone is free to start mining. Besides that, Bitcoin is a proof-of-work system. Regular users can share their opinions to try to influence the miners, but ultimately the decision is made by the miners. And of course, users want bigger blocks. Of course, they want to be able to send more transactions for a lower fee. Keep in mind that miners have invested millions of dollars in Bitcoin. They won't do anything against the user's interest.
Imagine if Dr. Evil invests $100 billion in mining equipment next year, or if the Chinese government decides to regulate Bitcoin on a protocol level. If a majority of miners can increase the block size limit to the point where users can't run full nodes, won't this hugely centralize and perhaps destabilize the system?
Well, yes, there's always a risk of 51% attacks. The security of Bitcoin requires that more than half of all miners are honest. The confidence people have in Bitcoin is based on this assumption, and Bitcoin will become safer when more investment is made in Bitcoin mining.
The confidence people have in Bitcoin also lies in the fact that miners cannot arbitrarily change any protocol rules. If miners hard fork to a new protocol without support from users, they would effectively fork themselves off the network.
If miners hard fork to a new protocol, why would users stay on a chain with no hash power? A network where transactions don't confirm is useless.
Perhaps users aren't interested in a Bitcoin where miners control the block size limit. Perhaps they don't support a contentious hard fork, etc. Users left behind in the original network may even decide to change the proof-of-work algorithm to fire the existing set of miners.
I'm not at all worried about Bitcoin Core changing the proof-of-work algorithm. Such a big change in the consensus mechanism would not be accepted by the majority of the community, and as a result, there would simply be one more altcoin.
Both ends of the fork would probably consider each other's chain to be the altcoin.
In that case, we'll let the market choose which side is Bitcoin.
In that case, why not have a ViaBTC hard fork right now and let the market decide straight away?
I prefer not to see a currency split, and I don't think it will happen if we get 75% of all hash power on board. But Bitcoin Unlimited miners currently only control about 10% of hash power on the network. If we hard fork now, we probably wouldn't get enough user acknowledgement and support, and meanwhile we'd undertake a tremendous opportunity loss. As a rational businessman, I won't do that.
Let's say your hard fork succeeds. Several Bitcoin Core developers have already indicated they will have no interest in joining this new network. Who will maintain and develop this Bitcoin?
I think if Bitcoin Unlimited becomes the main chain, a rather high ratio of developers will turn to contribute. The Bitcoin code is much less complicated than that of Linux or other open source software, so in this world there are plenty of people with the ability to maintain Bitcoin.
Where are all these people, and why aren't they maintaining Bitcoin right now?
I could do it if I wanted to.
Why don't you?
Nobody's paying me to do it, and I can earn more by doing other things.
Couldn't it be argued, though, that insofar as Bitcoin Core developers are paid at all, they could probably be earning more by doing other things as well?
That is wrong. They should be paid. I personally already pay 2 Bitcoin XT developers, and if a fork happens, I'm sure there are many more people that can fund development. Roger Ver, Jihan Wu, and there will be more mature companies in the Bitcoin ecosystem which all have momentum to support and cultivate more Bitcoin developers too.
Do you think that the Bitcoin Core development team should be fired?
I believe that the Bitcoin Core developers currently have too much power. There's no system of checks and balances for them. They can decide to make massive changes to Bitcoin based on their own personal preferences and then force those changes onto other users.
Neither users nor miners are forced to run Bitcoin Core. You know that since you are in fact not running Bitcoin Core. Developers make a proposal, the community decides whether or not to accept it.
There's not enough competing implementations to take that position seriously. We've already had some competition, but none of these alternative clients posed a threat to Bitcoin Core. A hard fork to Bitcoin Unlimited may change the developer environment. That's what we need. No one should be able to control Bitcoin.
Is that perhaps what this is really about? Control?
I do think the centralization of Bitcoin development is an even bigger issue than the block size limit or segregated witness. Bitcoin Core has a privileged position as the reference client, and only a few people have the right to merge code in it.
Bitcoin Core is a relatively loosely knit group of volunteer developers. They choose to cooperate because they agree that's a more effective way of getting things done. Besides, anyone can fork their code. What alternative do you propose?
I have some thoughts about that, but haven't worked out the details. I think Bitcoin Core's code should not define Bitcoin. Like many other successful open source projects, there should be a specification document to define Bitcoin. This will help alternative implementations become compatible with Bitcoin Core, meaning they can effectively compete rather than just follow.
I think everyone would agree a specification document would be welcome. But in the end, Bitcoin is the code people run on their computers, is it not?
I believe the consensus should not be code. It should be English. It should be understandable for most Bitcoin users and companies. This way more people can have a voice and impact.
Speaking of control, who controls the hash power on ViaBTC? Some say it's Bitmain.
Our pool system is highly available, stable, and efficient. We have not produced a single orphan block, and we give all mining fees to miners. This is what's attracting hundreds of miners to our pool, big and small. The idea that Bitmain controls the hash power on ViaBTC is totally ridiculous. All right, well, there you have it. So that's the end of the interview, and it was a pretty good one, I think. There's all kinds of stuff in there that we could touch on. I don't think we plan to go too much longer, though. Here's one of the main things that came to me towards the end. They're talking all about different implementations. Bitcoin Unlimited is a different implementation of Bitcoin. And it's funny because this is for the past 2 episodes, I think. I think it really has been exactly the past 2. We talked to Andrew Lee from Perth.io, who is developing Bcoin. And then we talked just last week about some of the response to that episode, where some people don't even think we should have different implementations, let alone this whole discussion about what kinds of implementations and how they set the rules and who sets the rules. But anyway, that just came to me. I think it's a good example of why we need different implementations to let different people argue about different rules and different settings and fight it out. I don't know. Any thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, just the more option you have, we say you hope the better. I mean, it doesn't always work out like that. Like there could just be all shitty options, because sometimes that does happen. But generally, it helps to have different options, because then you get a little bit of competition, and it at least gives people the kick in the ass to make something different, to make something. To work harder on it, to be more accountable to it, because they know they're not the only person in town. If they fuck it up too bad, people go someplace else. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to see other stuff available. I don't really agree with some of the stuff he says.
Okay, wait, that's a good point. So in my circles, on my Twitter account and on the shows I listen to or whatever about Bitcoin, the general consensus is that SegWit is amazing, and we need it as soon as possible. And, maybe we should increase the block size, but, it's a pretty big deal. Even if people that argue that we should increase the block size will admit that it's a pretty big deal. So, in general, the people that I pay attention to do not support ViaBTC at all. But what I want to know is where you have sympathy for him. Or in the case of this interview, it was me. What did I say in this interview that you have some sympathy for, that made sense, even though most people are generally against ViaBTC? What did I say that made sense?
I mean, I especially,
if anything,
I do like how he said where they're like, the Bitcoin Core doesn't force their code on anybody, and he's like, oh yeah. He's like, he said they force it, and the other guy's like, well, no, they don't actually force it. He's like, no, not technically, but for all intents and purposes, yes. It's true, but not. Hold on.
ViaBTC is the one, I'm the one that suggested that we do force our code. That Core forces its code on Bitcoin users. Are you, Tim, are you saying that you agree with ViaBTC that Core forces the code on users?
No, I agree with his second point about there's not enough competing implementations to take that seriously.
Okay.
Him saying that it forces upon it, and he says a few other things where I'm like, he's like, most people would just do this. I'm like, I don't think that's how people are going to react to it. But like the first time when he says that they would force it, I'm like, they're not really. But then the guy says exactly what I would say, and then he's like, yes, but at the same time, there's not enough other options for that to actually be true. like for it to be
right.
something worth bringing up. Like, oh no, you have other options. He's like, which what?
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, that's why we had Andrew Lee to talk about Bitcoin, because it is another option. Not a different option regarding block size and SegWit, but it is a different option that people can try out. And yeah, Bitcoin Unlimited is another option. And apparently, this guy Haipo hires Bitcoin XT developers. I thought Bitcoin XT was gone to dust, but maybe there are people that still like it and like the ideas behind it and stuff. So I guess. But yeah, okay, so they also talked quite a bit about development in general, even core development, regardless of different implementations. How do we develop Bitcoin? Regardless of which one wins, how do we develop it? How do we maintain it as an open source project? And I guess I'll just ask for your thoughts, Tim. I mean, should we be paying developers? And if so, how? I mean, do we just let the general public make commits here and there whenever? What do you think?
I honestly don't know. I don't really like to think about it because I'm like, oh, this is so great and everything, and I have control of my money, and I'm like, I don't really have. Possibly it's from laziness, but also at the same time, I'm like, I don't feel like, besides just complaining on a forum, I don't really have too much of an ability to change this. I mean, that's my fault because I don't understand as much. I guess I could just go in and just learn stuff and then just become and just do it myself and make it better, but I don't really have the inclination to do that. So I can't really think of any real way to actually make that much of an impact besides just talking about it, and I don't really know how much of an impact that has.
Yeah, I think I like, at least for my part, I like his comparison to Linux, where he basically says Linux is way more complicated than Bitcoin, and there are still plenty of people who develop Linux. And I think it's true. I think, and that's why, in general, a lot of people support open source in general, because anyone can develop on it, and they will if it's worth developing. And yes, companies that are committed to Bitcoin will hire people simply to develop an open source project, and at the same time, you'll get just as much support from, nerds in their mom's basements who come up with ideas or, argue for different things on forums, just like you said, Tim, and then they actually come through and develop them, and then other people say, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Yeah, we'll take that change. So I think it's going to be all kinds of different sources of development. Yep, some of them will be paid by companies that need Bitcoin, and they need Bitcoin to be maintained. And plenty of development will come from average dudes as well. So I don't think it matters. If Bitcoin is needed and cool and interesting and valuable, then all kinds of people will find ways to contribute. And even if they don't directly develop, they'll just come up with ideas, and then the real core developers or whoever will say, oh, good call, let's put it in the code. So I don't think it's even that big of a deal. It's hardly even worth asking the question. Who cares? Somebody's going to develop if development needs done, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless things fall, if there's a market for it, there's most likely going to be someone who's going to come and make money off of it and make something better eventually. Like, as long as we don't destroy things, it'll get better.
All right. Score. Let's not destroy things. All right. Well, then let's, we're pretty close to wrapping up, but I will put the main question to you one more time then, Tim. Overall, what do you think of ViaBTC's initiative here? I mean, are you okay with them rejecting SegWit, even though he admits that it's a good thing? That's basically what he says, is he has nothing against SegWit, but he doesn't want that to happen yet because he thinks there are more important things, or he thinks he thinks if they soft fork to SegWit, then that'll end the possibility for a hard fork, and he really wants a hard fork. And he says, if we do this soft fork, then we're going to be committed to soft forks, and we'll never be able to have any real change. So anyway, Tim, overall, what do you think about his initiative? Are you okay with it? Is it a good idea? Will it succeed or not? Anything?
I feel like it probably won't succeed because most people are more likely to kind of push more for a soft fork because it seems we're afraid of a big confrontation. Yeah. I guess he could. I mean, there's no reason why they can't do it. It's just if they're going to get enough people to jump on with them. I like his point about the hard fork versus soft fork, and if we start doing soft forks now, people are always just going to let's just build another thing on top of it and change it that way instead of actually making a change to the actual code. So it's
the soft fork does change the code, but basically the main idea behind a soft fork is that it's backwards compatible, which means that you don't have to update. If you don't update, your node will still work. And it is more complicated. The code is way more complicated to make that work where, the future nodes can still communicate with the past nodes regardless of SegWit or not. That's a really complicated feat compared to Bitcoin Unlimited, which literally just removes one line of code that checks the block size or whatever. So I don't know the specifics. Maybe it's more complicated, but yes, a soft fork is way more complicated, but also infinitely safer because the rules are still the same. I mean, you can still talk to the old nodes. You can still run an old node, an old-fashioned node, I guess, and everything's fine. So that's the main difference. But
yeah, you nailed it right there, buddy. Doing it live.
Yeah. I guess, I agree with your point that they probably won't succeed. They just won't. I don't think there's enough support. I don't really support them. I'm all for SegWit. I'm all for soft forks. I think soft forks are way safer. I think SegWit has been sufficiently tested for months, and I mean, even over a year, the idea has been bouncing around. So I have nothing against SegWit. I think it's great. And I like soft forks. I think they're safe again. So, yeah, I don't think ViaBTC is going to succeed. That's my view. So, for what it's worth. And I guess with that, we're about ready to wrap up, Tim. Is that the case? Or should we do advice of the day? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do advice.
All right, so normally when it comes to advice, it's one of the parts where we slow down the most, and we'll take 30 seconds to pause and think, and that's where we have to cut stuff out. But today, we're running hot, Tim, so I'm going to put it to you right here. You better be ready.
Put it to me.
What's the advice of the day? What did we learn today, boys and girls?
Cover your ass and don't use Coinbase. If you do, fuck you. You're fucked over. And make a decision about if you're going to use Via or Via whenever you talk to people, because depending on who you're talking to, it can be a pretty big annoyance.
All right, well, that was pretty good stuff. I was going to make my advice about the second half when you first started talking about Coinbase, but I guess it turns out you gave advice about both halves. So now I'm just stalling so I can come up with something. I guess I'll just make it steal content. We've had similar advice before. If content or information is good, use it. That's what we did today. We found a good interview and we used it, and you should do the same. That's what we got. Thanks for being here with us today, everyone. All of the music that you're listening to right now is from Jon Stewart. and that will be edited in. That takes 10 seconds, so I will have time to add that. So enjoy this nice, whatever, guitar, drums, whatever he decides, harmonica, banjo. Enjoy it. From Jon Stewart. Peace, everyone.
Bye-bye,
We'll see you next
everybody.
Thursday.
Thanksgiving. Woo. Eat a lot.